Hello there, it's Reverend Tracey speaking to you in the middle of Holy Week as we continue to be unable to worship in our church buildings, but as we find new ways of connecting and being together. I hope you've had a good week and that you're keeping safe and well. So tomorrow will begin the final and most intense few days of Jesus' journey towards Jerusalem and his death and resurrection, the holiest and most mysterious days of the Christian year. But before we do that, I want to invite you to pause for a moment and look back. I want to start by asking you, how's your Lent been then? It seems ages and ages since I preached on Ash Wednesday. The following day, my rather ambitious plan to give up both tea and coffee hit the buffers, driving home from an emergency vet's appointment in Stamford. And in fact, we then had only 3 more Sunday services together before our worship in church was suspended altogether. All of that seems a very long time ago now. But Lent hasn't been cancelled, just changed. Since Ash Wednesday, one of the things several of you have spoken to me about, and indeed something Father Wayne is reported to be quite excited about, is the idea of glitter ashing. Marking one another at the start of our Lenten journey with a mixture of ash and glitter. It's clearly caught your imagination. It's this idea that we might turn back to God with not only a renewed sense of those things in our lives which we need to get real about, but also that within the very messiness of who we are, of the choices we make and the world we live in, there are glimpses of the glory to which we're called, for which we were created. This idea that beyond, even woven through the sin and the shame, there is light and there is God. It's reflected in Jan Richardson's words, which I shared with you that evening. So let us be marked, not for sorrow, and let us be marked not for shame. Let us be marked not for false humility or for thinking we're less than we are, but for claiming what God can do within the dust, within the stuff of which the world is made, and stars that blaze in our bones, and the galaxies that spiral inside the smudge we bear. The spark, the sparkle in the smudge, as someone called it. And I like that image. It's one I've been drawn back to time and time again this Lent. The sparkle in the smudge. Because this Lent has turned out to be way, way more smudgy than any of us could ever have imagined. When I look back now on my Lenten discipline, or rather lack thereof, it seems ridiculous that giving up caffeinated beverages of any kind would represent any sort of hardship, given what we know people are enduring right now, and indeed what we might well have anticipated people having to endure even 3 weeks ago, because we should have seen this pandemic coming down the road like a bus. We have watched panic and understandable turning in on ourselves, self-preservation, self-interest and introspection. We have not, collectively or individually, been the best we could be. We have not considered the collective impact of our individual choices, and we have talked about the vulnerable even as, presumably, some of us must have been indulging in the kind of behaviour which has stripped the supermarket shelves and left nurses sobbing at the end of long shifts as they worry about feeding their families. We have watched and will see more of suffering, fear, anxiety, distress, loneliness, isolation, abandonment and grief. We've had to ask deep questions of ourselves and of God. Maybe it's too soon to say what the lasting spark of light will be in all this smudge. But we have seen communities come together. We've seen courage and hope, compassion and kindness in the face of fear. We've seen people slowing down, taking time with one another, simplifying, reprioritising. We've seen people engaging with prayer in new and exciting ways. I've watched people revise their expectations downwards and be surprised and delighted and rewarded in doing so. Our work will be to ensure these small signs of life continue to flourish when we return to a new kind of normal. That's the very least we owe to those who suffered so unbearably through this pandemic. One thing seems sure though. This Lent has seen people listen to God, turn to God, lean into God in new ways. And in doing so, their faith has been stirred up, deepened, affirmed. Even as there have been bits of the old, familiar and treasured that they've had to let go of. If Lent isn't about that, then I don't know what it is about. But as we turn into Holy Week, there's still so much we don't know about what lies ahead. In our liturgy, we find order, rhythm, form, familiarity, transcendence. We find the story of our salvation, of God's love for us, reflected in the rituals which have sustained successive generations of Christians as we follow in Jesus' steps, as we do as he commanded us to do. We process on Palm Sunday, knowing that the way ahead will involve suffering, but in our longer view is resurrection and hope. Resurrection and hope which cast a bright light into the darkness. But in our personal lives, in the world around us, not so much like that right now. We're unsure and fearful about the way ahead, holding on to faith by our fingertips. We don't know how the coronavirus story ends. It's frightening and unsettling. There are no guarantees. It can be easy to forget that this was how Jesus' first followers must have felt. They followed him through the events of Holy Week with absolutely no sense of how the story was to end. That can be a very difficult thing for us to imagine. Our Holy Saturday may well feel desolate, but even in those depths, we do know how things work out. Perhaps this year it will feel different, because when we enter into Holy Week and Easter, the Gospel readings ask a lot of us. They take us to places and emotions which will wring us out and turn us around and ask big questions of us. This year, we will be invited to engage with the joy of the resurrection in just a few days, at a time when we know so many people will be continuing to live through a very different experience in their earthly, here and now stories. The rhythms of Good Friday, Holy Saturday and the Easter Vigil take us on a very real journey, but for some that journey from darkness to light won't come so easily this year. People who are suffering on Friday night may well still be suffering on Sunday morning. And likewise, Good Friday and Holy Saturday may well feel overwhelmingly real for reasons relating to coronavirus or for other reasons relating to all kinds of other realities in your life and the lives of the people around you. Be kind to yourself. Know that God knows. If you can't stand in the Easter garden and touch the risen Christ, his resurrection is no less real, and in time you will come to that place. Wherever you've been on your Lenten journey and wherever this road towards Jerusalem, to the cross and beyond, takes you, can I encourage you to be kind to yourself and to those around you? In the sorrow, the hopefulness, the joy, lean on God and listen for that still small voice. Don't worry too much about taking everything in. The riches of our musical heritage, albeit online or on the radio this year. The unfamiliarity of a dispersed Easter. No palm crosses, no paschal candle. The gathering sadness and anxiety of the world around us, the uncertainty, the grief. This is an unprecedented global crisis, a human catastrophe. Don't try to hold it all. You can't, and you don't need to. But know more than ever that God does. However you engage with the next few days, they remind us once more of the hope to which we're called. A hope which says that Jesus is absolutely in the middle of all that we find tough and challenging and unbearable. That his love will take us to the depths and will break our hearts and then remake them. Hope and trust in Jesus doesn't deny what it means to suffer and lose heart. It doesn't offer easy platitude, but it says with the conviction of having been there and from a place of vulnerability, brokenness and apparent failure, yes to all that seems unbearable in life right now, and follows that with, and yet, this is not the end. So I want to finish by offering you a poem by the Irish poet and theologian Padraig Ó Tuama. It's called Narrative Theology. And I said to him, are there answers to all of this? And he said, the answer is in the story, and the story is being told. And I said, but there is so much pain. And she answered plainly, pain will happen. Then I said, will I ever find meaning? And they said, you will find meaning where you give meaning. The answer is in the story, and the story isn't finished.